for those of you who don't know, Newton was formerly Neurolens, and we just heard a mention about Dr. Vance Thompson, which is interesting because he was involved with Dr. Carol Nelson and Dr. Jeff Kroll at the beginning of our company way back, even before 2012. And who's familiar with Neurolens or Newton? Just a show of hands. Okay, so for those of you in the industry, we typically talk about the headset a lot. I'm not going to talk about that today. We're going to have a chance to do the headset at the booth, and then we'll have a chance to do the headset at our breakout sessions. But my name's Adwin Springer. I'm the Vice President of Sales for North America. I'm joined by Bill Castine, who's our VP of Strategic Partnerships, Nancy Lebasquin, who's our Vice President of Marketing, and Heather Martin, who's our Key Account Executive in the Northwest, really everywhere, Central. So wanted to talk about emerging innovations. And the first thing we're going to do is just a little Slido survey because, as I said, Newton probably does a little bit more than you think. It's not so much just about the technology, but it's about the overall enhancement that we bring to practices. So we'll start with a quick little Slido. If you guys want to just take your phones out, scan the QR code. I'll give you a chance to do that. And then once we get to the end of the presentation, we'll do a reveal. Should be a quick one. It's just one question. Awesome. So I'll take you back in history to how Newton came to be. It's a very interesting story. Driven by science, powered by you being the optometry industry. And back in 2012, we were called iBrain Medical. To the point I was making earlier, Vance Thompson and others were involved. We moved from then to creating the NMD1, which was our first device, and obviously with that came the Neurolens. And then in 2021, we actually shrunk the size of our device, and we ended up with the NMD2, and that led to even further lens designs, and we'll have a chance to talk about those. And then in 2023, we went to the headset. So the headset is obviously improving patient experience, but also it's a lot more efficient. And then last Vision Expo West, which was just earlier this year, we launched Newton. And the reason that we launched Newton was because we have two new products that we're bringing to market. Not only do we have Neurolens as a therapeutic lens, but we now have Sequel, which is a lifestyle lens. It's a lens for every patient. And we also introduced Isaac, which is our AI platform that does learning and development inside of your practice. So in order to launch those two products, we really needed to have a different brand. Neurolens is really specific, and Newton allowed us to do that, okay? So we always say we are focused on redefining eye care through exceptional patient experiences and outcomes. This came to us as our value proposition almost by chance. You know, we started off really just trying to help patients that were suffering with headaches. But as we got involved with practices and we started to lead and guide them, we realized that not only were we helping with products, but if it's staffing that has to be helped with, we're there for our practices. And naturally, you know, the three things that we found that were very prominent as opportunities for our partners were meeting the patient expectations. So in today's world, the new normal, people are working at near, they're suffering from headaches, they're suffering from eye strain, you name it. And then the other piece was really the chance to bring a cash pay solution to the industry. As we all know, in the lens business, it's becoming relatively commoditized and consolidated, and the ability to have a lens that gives you the opportunity to have a cash pay product was something that was super important. But then we also realized that through our training and our relationships with our practice, we actually help them onboard employees, train employees, and all of this really led to a better overall practice experience. So when we think about Newton, it's not necessarily just the product, but it's the partnership that we build with our practices. So for us at Newton, data is important. The headsets and the devices, the tabletops that we had previously, we take all that information and we really use it to help streamline and make the most efficient recommendations when it comes to our product. And over the 300 million measurements that we've done, we realized something that became really obvious to us. 30% of the patients that we measure are suffering from symptoms that we would say require a therapeutic intervention. And by therapeutic intervention, I mean a lens that's designed to solve for symptoms that typically aren't being solved for today. Headaches, motion sickness, neck and shoulder pain. These are all symptoms that patients are coming into our practices with, and they're not always getting treatment from us as the optometry industry. Sometimes they're spending upwards of $861 to get these treatments solved for outside of our business. So this is a fantastic opportunity for us, and we really like to hammer this point home. The second thing that became very evident was that there's still another segment of the population, 60%, who are asymptomatic. But they're wearing today lenses that have been optimized not necessarily for what happens when we're working at near for extended periods of time, right? There are negative variables that happen in both single vision and progressive lenses, and we've found a way to negate those negative impacts with our convergence boost technology. So I'll talk about that in a second, but that's really the 30%, 60% split. So when I think about Newton in totality at the moment, as I said, we've got our therapeutics arm, we've got our lifestyle, everyday lens, and then Isaac is part of our innovation lab. And all three of these things, like I mentioned earlier, are designed to support the optometrists in their day-to-day. So getting a little bit more granular quickly here before I wrap it up. On the left-hand side, you'll see Sequel. And as I mentioned earlier, we talked a little bit about convergence boost technology. Very simply put, if you want to think about Newton, we are the masters of variable prism. So standard prism gives you the same amount of prism diopters from distance to near. What we've been able to innovate and create is the ability to have different amounts of prism from distance to near. And in the convergence boost, this is an everyday lens that's really designed for patients that are suffering with asthenopia. You know, they're tired at the end of the day, they've got what would feel like dry eyes but aren't truly dry eyes. And typically we put them in an anti-fatigue lens, but for all of us here, we know the effect of an anti-fatigue lens can be exophoria. And if that's driving your symptoms and you get a plus power lens, it's only going to exacerbate them even further. So the Sequel is designed to clean up those negative parts of a lens that happen in the minus lens or a plus lens. And then Neurolens is really the contoured prism, and that's giving you distance correction with prism and a little bit more prism at near for those patients that need it. And as we all know, about 87% of our patients are more exophoric at near than they are in the distance. So the ability to give them this opportunity to be comfortable all day long is really what we're shooting for with both Neurolens for our super symptomatic and Sequel for our everyday patients, okay? So talked a little bit about the AI component and our in-practice opportunities. I'll show you a quick video. This is something that's live right now in all of our practices. So if you're thinking about taking Newton and Neurolens in, this is part of what we offer. But as I mentioned, one of the things that we realized was that there's an opportunity to help you with your staff. Staff turnover happens, and it takes them quite a bit of time to get back into the flow of things. So we created this to allow for our practices to have the ability to practice when they're not in front of the business leaders or the office managers, okay? So I'll give you a little example of what this looks like for our practices.
Perfect, Avery. So we've got your frame, we've got your lenses, as well as the coatings, and you're going to be looking at $1,200 today.
Wait, $1,200? That's way more than I expected. Why is it so high?
Totally understand. So keep in mind, this is an elective medical treatment lens, right? With that being said, your insurance is not contributing. So you've got three aspects built into your package. You've got the clarity that you've come to expect from our office. You're going to be able to see really, really, really clear, especially at night when you're on the computer. But the thing that we added is going to be that treatment. The treatment is the Neurolens, and that's what's specifically designed to reduce your headaches, the neck pain, the motion sickness. The last thing that we have is your frame. You did choose a Tom Ford frame. Those are coming in at $325.
Awesome.
All right, I get the breakdown. But is there any flexibility on that frame cost, or is that locked in?
It is locked in. However, you can still utilize your HSA or FSA. And then, of course, we've got some options where you can do $0 down and then $100 a month for a year at no interest. So those would be your options for payment.
All right, that sounds more workable. Let's go ahead with that 0 down, $100 a month plan.
Perfect. If you want to scan this QR code here, it'll take you to Care Credit to just fill out some information, and we'll get everything processed.
So anyways, it's a pretty cool tool, and it continues to get better every single day because we're continuing to give it the information it needs to provide us with answers, and our offices are using it to engage with their patients, engage with their staff. So again, if you think about Newton in totality to close here, we're a tech-forward company really looking to empower the optometry industry, whether it be through lens designs, AI, our headset, which I encourage you all to try. It's all in the effort of ensuring that we're moving the industry forward. And I always like to put this last slide up because in the middle is the optometrist and all the things that they have to worry about: the rise of online retail, what technology to invest in, practice differentiation and profitability, exceptional patient care, of course, onboarding and retention. And what I showed you was exactly what we try to address with our products based on what you're facing on a day-to-day basis. So going back to our Slido results, I believe patient satisfaction was what is most important to you. And I always like to say that's exactly what we bring, not only through the patient experience, but also through the lenses that meet the needs of your patients, okay? So I'll open it up. I don't know if there's any questions, but that was Newton in a nutshell. Sure.
Do you have an online database like Find a Provider?
We do, yes. Yeah, Neurolens.com or Newton.com or Neurolens.com will get you to find a provider. That's an easy one.
Yeah, this is definitely exciting technology, and it's great to be at this meeting because I get to learn things about not just the previous Neurolens, but the more comfortable lens sequel.
Sequel, yes.
I didn't know about that, but this is great technology that we all have those patients that have been suffering from dry eye. Many of us have a dry eye clinic, but they're still having the asthenopia. They're still having issues. And so finding those people using the doctor locator, we have doctors actually, Marshall Leverett has it in our area, Katie, but there are people in your area that we refer to for these type of things. And so
Awesome.
very exciting to hear.
Awesome.